Hi, this is Rachel Mills with Make and Create's drawing skills. Today we're going to be taking a little bit of a sort of turnaround from our sort of history channel that we're doing, and we're going to be doing Baroque drawings. So it's ideal if you're able to get this printed out. If you're unable to, trying to get it up on some sort of technology device or something might work. But it's going to be really so much better if you're able to print it out and in front of you like this. It's going to make things a lot easier. So you're going to want it on the same size of paper that you're going to be drawing it onto. Like if I have this piece here, I don't want to try to draw it on like an A5 or something. This is an A4 sheet of paper. So I'm going to now put it on another I'm going to draw on an A4 sheet of paper as well. So to keep it steady, I'm going to tape it down. And that's just so that it won't be moving around and everything and just making things a little more difficult for me. So while I do that, I'm going to explain what Bargue drawings are. So there was this fellow named Charles Bargue, and he drew a whole bunch of these sort of sculptures in this very photorealistic way. And ever since, art students all over the place have been using them as a reference. I think it was my first day of art school we did Bargue drawings. So here we are, all taped down so it won't move around on us. And you're also going to need your pencils, a ruler and a skewer. So I will start with, if you've graded pencils, that's going to be even better, and I'd highly recommend using those. I'm going to start with a very, very light grade, like a 2H, because I think that's the lightest grade I actually have in this set here. So I have my 2H, and I am going to basically make a little square around my guy. I'm doing it very, very lightly. You can see I'm also overdrawing it. I don't know if you can really see it showing up. I think if you look really closely, you can. So I'm not trying to cut off any part of him. I'm trying to keep him as straight as possible as well. Might be hard for you to see. There we go. Actually, because we're drawing on him, it doesn't matter so much if they're lighter or darker, but when we draw on the page, it'll have to be a lot, very, very light, since these are going to be sort of guidelines for you. There we are. So now I've got this sort of square around him. And now I'm going to basically making the same exact square. So I can either measure it like this. That's about 9. A little more than a half. And I'm going to check over here as well. 9. And about a half. So then I can do it this way. So I'm going to go over here, more and a half, that's about this. So I'm going to make a little tick there, and then draw very, very lightly over here. So you can see this little tick. Draw a little bit darker for you. Draw that little tick, so I know where to end it. Another thing you can do, I personally am not a big fan of the ruler unless I want to make a straight line. I don't like measuring so much. Is that you can grab your little skewer out, and you can hold it out. I'll move that down a little bit so you can see that actually. Hold it over here and just sort of put my thumb where this line ends, or even mark it out with my pencil. Whoop, my tape just dropped there. So then either mark it out with my pencil or just hold it with my thumb, bring it over. There we are. And that's that just about figured out. We can do the same thing with this. Move over here. Over here. And measure it out. Make sure you have it right. That is about 5. Actually, I need to remeasure that a wee bit. 5.5. 5 and a wee bit. 5 and a wee bit. And whoop. So it seems I actually don't have a perfect square. But anyways, should be fine as long as you get your square in the right size. So what we're doing is we're going to be drawing the Bargue drawing 1-to-1. So everything is going to be the exact same size. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to find a point. Let's say this ear point over here, right? And I can pull that across and say, okay, that's roughly where that point is. And there's this little bit of space over here. I can even measure it if I want to. And say, okay, that's where that is. That's where that point is. Let's see, I'm going to cut this point over here. That is about this amount in, so it's going to be this amount in. It is actually a really good idea to mark on your skewer where it will be. There we are. So now we have that. If you also look at this wee corner, you can sort of get that wee corner in. Also figure out that this is over. You can see that actually. There we go. This is over here, and this is over here. So we're just figuring out where that point goes. Basically, what we're doing is we're just measuring every single point we see and then bring it over to the other page. Then we're going to do a nice smooth line over here. Now this one, we're to figure out actually where this bit ends. So we have to do this and bring it over here. I'm actually going to eyeball that, or angle a bit, but you should actually try to get every single angle. Bring that over. Try to measure out every single angle you possibly can. Let's see, how deep in is this bit? It's over here. So now I'm going to measure that bit. How deep in is it? About over here. And how tall is this bit? It's actually about that tall. Then maybe this bit over here. You can actually add these little dots on your drawing, these sort of anchor points, and that's going to really help out. So that you can say, okay, from this anchor point to the line I have, where does that end? Okay, about here. So my anchor point is going to be about there. And then I can draw the line from there to the anchor point. There's this anchor point. How long is that going to be? That's about here. So now here and here. Things are actually a little bit difficult for me because I have this sort of binding in between. So I wouldn't recommend drawing with this sort of binding in between, but I wanted to draw it in my sketchbook. There we go. Now I'm going to figure out how tall this is from here. Oh, actually, I think I drew this a little bit too... Yes, I think I drew this a little bit too in, because remember we have this big huge line coming down, which is the same as this line coming down that goes through the neck. So I actually messed that up. That's why we have these guidelines and things. So now from the ear, this anchor point to this anchor point, how long is that going to be? So from here to here. There we are. And now I'm going to have this anchor point to this anchor point, and it's at this sort of angle. We're also kind of simplifying our angles, because if you look at this sort of shape, there's just some curvature and everything, but we're just going to draw just a kind of line from here to here, not cutting anything off. I'm going to bring that over. Double check that, actually. Alrighty, I might even want to measure across over here. From here to here. That's about this. Okay, I see. I need to actually thicken this slightly. I can go in there actually and clean that up a wee bit. So as you see, I've already kind of got his neck in there. The size of his neck. It should be the exact same size. Once I have this sort of outline done, I'll need to start in and doing shapes like these. And then once I have a full pencil sketch of his face, then I'll be able to go in and do shading and things. So I'll be back with you momentarily once I've come to that step. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this, I think I've briefly touched on it, but I just want to make sure that you have a wee bit of better understanding. First, I've done a little bit more work. You can see I've worked in the ear. Slow going sometimes. But something you can do is to hold your skewer over here, make your point, right? So we have our point over here that we've made. If you can see that very well. I don't know if you can. This wee point over here. This wee point, right? We can put our skewer on it, hold it across our page, right? And almost make a little line. And then over here you can make that same line. Then you'll know at what sort of height and axis it needs to be at. And then you'll have to measure over here. Okay, over here, that's where it kind of ends from this corner. So from here to here, it's going to be there, but it's going to lay on that axis. So there we go. Hope that is helpful. Alrighty. That's that for now. So now I have finished all the sort of outlines, so now I'm going to start doing his interior shapes. So by interior shapes, I mean his eyes, his nose, his mouth, those sorts of things. It's basically just the exact same way as you've done the outline, kind of using your sort of square around him and doing that sort of measuring technique and bringing it over. We're just now going to be doing that to his face. So I have to choose anchor points, like this corner of his eye, and let's say this corner of the ear actually. So those will be my anchor points. And that'll be about there. And I'm going to bring it over. So it's an anchor point in the ear. Yes, it's that anchor point in the ear right there. Bring it over, and about over here is where his eye is going to be. Alrighty, and now I'm going to choose this point, and it'll be sort of like that, because I'm going to do this sort of outside outline of his eye there, and then we'll be going in and doing that as well. Sort of the brow. So now we've got over here, this corner, and over there, this sort of corner. That anchor point. There we are. And we have that. So I'm going to choose this as my anchor point there. Right there is my anchor point. Now, measuring that. About there. And there. So I might actually need to check how far from here to here the anchor point is, because I want to make sure I have it at the right place. Yeah, roughly there. All good then. I might actually want to do my hairline first, because then I'll be able to anchor from the hairline to the brow and everything. And that could be really useful. So now I'm going to go and do all these interior lines. It's going to be the exact same for all the other features of the face, with the nose and everything. It's just with these shadow shapes, you're going to have to anchor them and simplify them. So you draw out this sort of shape. You have to draw out some of this. Draw out this shape here. This shape, and all these sort of shapes and things. I'm just going to leave it very like line art, very shapes, very simplified, because you can see some of these sort of curves over here I haven't really added in yet. And I can do that once I have everything down. Alrighty, so that's a sketch down. So now at this point, now that I have all the interior sort of lines and everything done, I can go in with a slightly darker pencil. So if you don't have grades of pencils, just HB for everything, that's absolutely fine. But I'm going to use a nice chunky 6B, I think. Or you know what, I might even just use 8B, just because I think it's sharpened a little bit better. So we have these darker bits, and we're going to have to replicate them. So you're going to want to try to get it as soft as possible. I'm going to use the side of my pencil. And I'm not going to go quite as dark because I need to go right away, but I will build that up. So just very, very softly. Just building that up. I'm trying to keep these edges over here very nice and soft and blended, because if you see, the transition is really soft, but over here we have a slightly harsher transition. So I can actually go a little harder on that. Just make sure that doesn't really blend too much. So the lip over here, that bit's dark. So now I'm actually going to go in and do these sort of detailed beard bits with the sort of shading. I kind of skipped drawing them out, just because that would have made me a little bit bored, to be honest. But if you want to draw them out with the sort of pointer method, the scooper method, thank you, please feel free to do that, because you are going to get a better placement for them. Perfect placement for them. So there we are. Just gonna put it to the side again. Now under here, I'm trying to get the right sort of sizes and everything. So if you notice, some parts in the shadow shape are darker than other parts. Like over here, it's going to be a bit lighter. That's another reason why it's going to be good to not go full on dark right away, because there's some areas that you'll want to leave lighter. So I'm just sort of blocking in this darker mid-tone. And over here, it's going to be a little softer. Also going to notice over here that the line on the sort of bottom bit is kind of dark. So I am going to be darkening that up. There we are. And get that in. So you have a nice sort of grey down there. So now I'm gonna actually, if I was just doing this on my own and not drawing it with you guys, I would just sit there with the grey and grey everything down. But I'm gonna speed things up a little bit just to show you. So now I'm gonna come over here with a super dark area, and I'm gonna really lay on the pencil thick. I'm gonna go like super thick, press super hard so I would break my pencil or anything. But I can always go back and darken up a little bit more. So I have this really lovely, like pure black section. It's going to be quite hard to get this with an HB. So if you don't have like an 8B or even like a 6B or a 2B or anything, even a 2B is going to be more helpful for getting you this nice dark rich color. If you have charcoal, that would also be a great idea to use, because it's going to even get you an even darker dark, because it will be more black versus a sort of sort of reflectiveness that graphite has. So that is just going to depend on what kind of materials you have. There we are. I'm going to shade in this ear section. There's a lot of slight irregularities and things in the ear, in the shadows, that kind of makes up the details of the ear. So you're going to have to suggest those shapes. I'm just going to turn this around a little bit so I can get a better angle. There we go. And you'll see in this corner, things get a little bit lighter, although it still has this nice darker line there. There it gets a little bit darker. There we are. So you're gonna have to like keep going, darkening all these sort of pieces and parts and everything. This is kind of the fun part for me, because now you're not really sitting here trying to measure everything out. You're just sitting there and trying to get everything as dark as way it needs to be. I don't know, I find it very relaxing and fun. You might like the measuring part more, and if you do, awesome, go do some more if you like. They're a great exercise for training your eye and just getting everything in the right places. And kind of just realising where exactly things are. Like when I first looked at my finished drawing of it, I was looking at the eyes and be like, those eyes look weird. But now that I'm adding the shading, I'm enjoying them a lot more. You don't really realise sometimes where exactly things are actually placed and how weird things actually look without the shading. And that's part of drawing. You have to draw it at one point without the shading. But that's me just about done. I'm going to finish this off camera. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of yours. But that's us for today. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.